this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a fabulous day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. Well, let's talk about Black Americans playing the victim and feeling entitled. This is coming up quite a bit in my comment section of any video that I do about Black Americans. People come in here angry because they say Black Americans feel entitled and that Black Americans play the victim. Well, I'm here to tell anybody who wants to know, or anybody who makes a statement like that Black Americans are both entitled and we are victims. We are entitled in that we are citizens of the United States of America. An African American is an American descendant of slavery. We are entitled to anything that any other American citizen is entitled to. So what the world says is America is the richest country on earth. So if America is the richest country on earth, then African Americans or Black Americans are entitled to the riches. They say America is the most powerful country on earth. Black Americans are entitled to that power. They say that America has the best higher educational system in the world. Well, Black Americans are entitled to that higher education. They say America has the best healthcare system in the world, where Black Americans are entitled to that health care. They say that Americans have the highest standard of living in the world. Well, Black Americans are entitled to that high standard of living. So Black Americans are actually entitled, so you're not wrong about that. Now, if Black Americans come to your country behaving as if they're entitled to something in your country, you should put them in their place, because they're not entitled to anything in your country. They're only entitled to what's here in the United States of America. Now, what the problem is with people who complain about this, they're either disgruntled white Americans who don't want Black people to have anything, or they are Black immigrants and other immigrants who come here and have decided that we're not entitled to anything because we're Black and we belong at the bottom caste. And so we should get out of the way so they can get what we're entitled to. So those are the people that have the most problems. Disgruntled white Americans and immigrants who are not entitled to anything here, and definitely not entitled to what Black Americans are entitled to. So I hope we got that straight. And if we didn't, I can bring more commentary. Just let me know. Black Americans are entitled. We are entitled to everything that America has to offer. If America has the best, the biggest, and the baddest of everything, then Black Americans are entitled to that. Are we clear? Okay. Now, let's talk about being victims. They say Black Americans play the victim. Most of the time, it's that same group of people, disgruntled white people who don't want Black people to say anything about what America has done, who don't want Black people to say anything about slavery, or if you do, they want you to say that it wasn't that bad and that you really enjoyed it. They don't want you to say anything about Jim Crow. They don't want Black people to say anything about the atrocities that have happened to us in this country. They don't feel like America should have to own up to anything that was done wrong to Black people. So that's disgruntled white people. And then you have these Black immigrants and other immigrants from other parts of the world, all over the world, who say we play the victim because they want to find a place in America where they can fit in. Now, they know white people are not going to give up their spot. They don't even go there. So what we say is that Black Americans are entitled and Black Americans are victims. How do we reconcile it? Well, we reconcile it by recognizing that America is a young country. This country is not 300 years old based on our Constitution. So we still have a lot of growing to do in America. Some Black Americans feel like I can't grow with this country. I'm leaving. That's their prerogative. Some Black Americans say, I'm going to stay here and see what the end's going to bring because we were here at the beginning and I'm going to ride it out to see what the end will be. But for people who come here thinking that they're going to get over by criticizing Black Americans and finding fault with Black Americans, think again. You have no agency here. I would say it again. It doesn't matter how much you criticize Black Americans. That's not going to make you the citizen that Black Americans are. And for immigrants, especially Black immigrants from the Caribbean, I would think that you would have your own problems because you've been victimized too. England, France, Spain, Portugal, they had you over a barrel just like we were in the United States of America. They don't show you any real consideration. And you walk around with your eyes in your behind, not looking at the system that your parents and foreparents came out of, but coming over here in the United States, looking at what we're doing and looking at our system and trying to take credit for something that somebody in the Caribbean did in the United States of America instead of telling us, what have you done in your own country? The fact that you don't want to acknowledge what was done to your ancestors and your family members and fight on their behalf is on you. The Prime Minister of England, who is an Indian immigrant to the United Kingdom, stood up with his full chest and told the people of the Caribbean who were colonized and enslaved by England that they were not going to apologize for slavery and they were not going to get any reparations. And you're sitting here wasting time about what Black Americans think. So you want to come here and fudge on our system and say, well, I was a slave too. And I've been in America since 1955, so I should be on their reparation system. We may never get reparations in the United States, but we're going to stand up and fight for it. But you don't want to do that. You want to come over here and say so much about Black Americans. Africans, the same thing. Coming over here talking about Nigerians or some of the successful immigrants. That's just a scam that people are playing on Nigerians. Your fight is in Nigeria, not over in the United States, talking about Black Americans and what Black Americans think or feel. So I would think that especially Black immigrants who come from the Caribbean and Africa, that you have your own business to tend to. You have your own housekeeping and house cleaning to do. And you need to get on your job and stay off ours because we know how to handle our business here in the United States. Yes, we are entitled and we are victims. And we are not ashamed of that. We own up to what happened to us and we know it was wrong. You Black immigrants don't have a center. You want to assimilate with white people, but they want to take the place that we earned in order to assimilate with white people. Because again, white folk don't back up for anybody. They don't step back. So if they can't take our place, they don't have a place. And so that's their way of trying to bond with white supremacy by saying that Black Americans play the victim or we have a victim's mentality. Well, Black Americans are victims. We are victims of the transatlantic slave trade. We are victims of plantation brutality and exploitation. We are victims of after slavery, also known as Jim Crow slavery part 2, where I say you are free on paper, but you're not free in practice. We are victims of a real estate discrimination called redlining, where they marked off where we lived in a city to make sure that no resources were put into that area. Black people could not borrow money from banks to buy homes, and banks and real estate agencies devalued the price of our homes so that we could not build any generational wealth in our real estate the way everybody else was doing. Black people were and continue to be victims of housing discrimination in all forms. Black people are victims of healthcare abuse, disparity, discrimination in many forms, including using Black bodies to experiment with different operations, different kinds of surgeries, and different kinds of medication. We are victims of that. So I could go on for a long time talking about what Black Americans are victims of. So when you say that Black Americans have a victim's mentality, that is for a reason. You don't have that victim's mentality in the United States because you haven't given up anything. You haven't sacrificed anything, and you haven't suffered anything to be American citizens. You just came here, got a job, stayed here for a few years, took a test, and were declared an American citizen. That did not happen to us. So yes, we are victims. So for all of you geniuses out there who think you're saying something smart and flip by saying that Black Americans are victims, you are absolutely right. Black Americans are victims of the greatest empire in the world. And white Americans, fortunately for us, there is a thread of decency that runs through the white American demographic. And there are those white people, as we speak, who will tell the truth about what America has done. And they are coming on social media platforms more and more often, telling the truth about the system and recognizing that Black Americans have been victimized. But for the people who've always got their teeth in Black Americans' backs, why are you here? What are you even doing in the United States of America? And why do you care about what Black Americans think or how Black Americans feel? Why is that of concern to you? These are questions that Black Americans need to start asking these people, these busybodies that are always dipping into our business. Why are you so interested in me, what I think I'm entitled to, or whether or not I feel like I'm a victim or not? Because why are you here? What were you running from? What were you a victim of? And what were you entitled to that you didn't get that made you feel like you need to run away from your home to come to our home to talk about what we think and how we feel about ourselves and our country? How about that? So give us some answers sometime. What are you a victim of and what are you entitled to? Because you're not entitled to anything in the United States of America because you didn't work for it. So you're not entitled to anything here. And if you're victimized here, or a victim of something, then the same thing that brought you in here take you out. So the same airplane, a boat, or bicycle, or however you got up in here, the same thing that brought you in here take you out. And the quicker the better. Okay, so I will end by saying this. Black Americans are entitled. We're entitled to everything that this country has to offer. We are entitled to it. And Black Americans are victims. We are victims of racial discrimination, of prejudice, and hatred of people who really don't like Black people. But we stand our ground because we are entitled. I'll ask the question again. What are you entitled to? And what are you a victim of? And if you say nothing, then you probably aren't telling the truth. And let us know about that. We would love to know. What are you entitled to and where? Where is the place that you belong to that makes you entitled to something? So if you could manage to keep Black Americans' names out your mouth, you might be able to figure out where you belong and what you're entitled to. And that would prevent you from being a victim of a system of which you have no agency. Okay, y'all. Thank you for listening. Let me know what you think about the video. Subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, and as always, have a great day.